Before we dive into today's story, if this is your first time watching one of our videos, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring you even more powerful stories. Stick with us till the very end. And if this story moves you, share your thoughts in the comments and send it to a friend who needs to hear it. Now, let's begin. Serena Morgan grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, in a world that sparkled from the outside but cracked on the inside. Her parents, Victor and Elaine Morgan, owned a glittering chain of boutique resorts scattered across the South. To outsiders, the Morgans looked like a dream family, the perfect smiles on Christmas cards, the gleaming mansion in Buckhead, and the latest imported cars parked neatly in the driveway. But Serena knew better. Inside that glossy frame, favoritism poisoned every corner of her childhood. The golden child was always her younger brother, Ethan. He got everything: private academies, a brand new SUV on his 16th birthday, even a penthouse loft before he had ever put in a real day's work. Serena, on the other hand, was told to make her own way. "You'll learn resilience that way," her father used to say dismissively whenever she asked for support. And she did. She worked 2 jobs all through college, fought her way to the top of her class, and graduated with honors in finance. She became a financial planner, grinding long nights, building her reputation deal by deal. She thought that maybe, just maybe, if she proved herself enough, her parents would finally see her. But they never did. The only one who ever saw Serena for who she was her grandfather, Harold Morgan, the man who built the family fortune. Harold was no ordinary grandfather. Once a shrewd investment banker, he had spotted opportunities in real estate long before anyone else did. His foresight had planted the seeds of the Morgan empire. But beyond his business genius, Harold was fair, warm, and kind. He was the only one who didn't play favorites. Years ago, he had set up a $5 million trust fund to be split equally between Serena and Ethan when they came of age. "Fair is fair," he always said, his gravelly voice firm but gentle. Serena loved him for that. He was the only anchor she had in a family that often treated her like she didn't exist. So when her phone rang one spring morning and her mother's shaky voice said, "Serena, it's your grandfather. He's had a terrible fall. We need you here right away." Serena didn't hesitate. She was supposed to catch a flight to Chicago that very morning to meet a big client, a pitch that could have elevated her career. But none of that mattered. The thought of Harold lying injured cut through her like glass. She canceled the trip, packed a bag, and sped across town to Harold's Buckhead estate, her stomach a knot of fear. But when Serena pushed through the heavy oak doors of Harold's house, her breath caught. There he was, seated in his leather armchair by the fireplace, a steaming mug of coffee in one hand and a newspaper in the other. Not a bruise, not a bandage, not even a hint of pain on his face. He looked up, startled. "Serena? What on earth are you doing here?" She froze, blinking. "Mom called. She said you fell, that you were hurt badly." Harold's brows furrowed, and he set the paper aside. His face darkened, the kind of expression she had only seen when he was deeply troubled. He leaned forward, rubbing his temples. "She told you that?" he asked quietly. Serena's chest tightened. "Yes. What's going on?" For a long moment he didn't answer. Then, with a heavy sigh, he said, "Elaine wanted me to lie to you. She said it would be better if you stayed behind. I told her no, I wouldn't betray you like that." Serena staggered back into the sofa, her knees weak. "Stay behind? From what?" The answer came not from Harold's lips, but from Serena's phone. It buzzed in her pocket, a new Instagram notification. She pulled it out with trembling hands and opened the app. Her eyes widened, her throat closing. There it was, an image posted by Ethan. The entire Morgan family stood on a pristine white sand beach in the Bahamas. Sun hats, cocktails, sunglasses, all laughter and smiles. Her parents, her brother, her aunts, her cousins, everyone but her. The caption stung like acid. "Nothing beats family time in paradise." Serena's hand shook. so hard she nearly dropped the phone. They lied, she whispered, her voice cracking. They left me here. They used your name. They told me you were hurt, so I wouldn't ask questions. Harold's eyes softened, filled with sadness and fury at once. They never meant to take you, Serena. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. Serena gripped the phone so tightly her knuckles turned white. I was supposed to be there. I should have been in that photo, she whispered, fighting tears. How could they? That night, Serena sat curled on her grandfather's couch, the only light coming from the glow of her phone screen as she scrolled through photo after photo of her family's tropical getaway. Each one pierced her deeper. Her mother with her arm around Ethan, her father raising a glass to the camera, cousins clinking champagne. Serena bit her lip until it bled. They tricked me. They made me think I was saving you while they laughed on the beach. Harold lowered himself onto the couch beside her, his face tight with worry. Serena, he said gently, there's something you need to see. He rose slowly, went to his desk, and returned with a thick folder. He set it in her lap. I've been keeping track of everything, he explained. Her hands trembled as she opened it, eyes darting across the pages. Bank statements, trust reports, legal papers, proof that her parents had been siphoning her inheritance for years. The trust fund was meant for you and Ethan equally, Harold said, voice taut, but they've been funneling nearly all of it to him. Serena's stomach lurched as she read line after line. Ethan's private schools, Ethan's sports car, Ethan's failed startups, all paid for with her half of the fortune. Serena's throat tightened as she flipped through the documents. Each page felt like a knife. This is my money, she whispered, her finger tracing a 6-figure transfer labeled tuition, Ethan Morgan. Another line read luxury vehicle purchase, Ethan. The list went on and on. I worked through college, Grandpa. I lived on ramen and part-time jobs while they drained my trust. Her voice cracked. Harold put a steady hand over hers. I wanted to believe your father would do right by both of you. I gave him control, and I was wrong. Serena clenched her jaw, tears burning her eyes. They didn't just cut me out. They erased me. Harold leaned closer. It's worse than that, Serena. They're planning to sign the hotel chain over to Ethan. Your father has already prepared the paperwork. Serena froze. Harris Hotels? The whole business? That was supposed to be shared. Harold's eyes were grim. They're finalizing it now. Serena shut the folder with trembling hands. The weight of betrayal pressed down until she could hardly breathe. They took my trust, they stole my inheritance, and now they're taking the business too. Harold squeezed her shoulder firmly. You don't have to let them, Serena. You're stronger than they think. For the first time, her fear began to turn into steel. The next morning, Serena called the one person she knew would stand by her, her Aunt Vanessa. Vanessa had walked away from the family business years ago, disgusted by Elaine and Victor's shady practices. Now, she worked as a sharp corporate attorney with a reputation for tearing down fraudsters in the courtroom. Send me everything, Vanessa said over the phone, her tone clipped but protective. An hour later, she sat across from Serena in Harold's study, flipping through the folder. Her lips curled into a grim smile. This is fraud, plain and simple. They siphoned your inheritance. And if I'm reading these transfers right, they've already started moving money offshore. If they succeed, they'll vanish and leave you with nothing. Serena's heart pounded. So they're not just thieves, they're planning to run. Vanessa looked up, her eyes blazing. We can stop them, but we have to move fast. First, we cut off their image. They live for appearances. If we destroy that, they'll have nowhere to hide. Serena nodded slowly, a spark lighting behind her eyes. For years, she had swallowed her pain, praying for recognition. Now she saw her parents for what they were, people who would rather see her broken than admit she belonged. Let's do it, Serena said. Let's show them who they're dealing with. That evening, Serena sat with Vanessa and Harold, her phone glowing in her hand. Ethan's latest Instagram post glared at her from the screen. Him lounging on a yacht, sunglasses on, holding a cocktail. The caption read, "Living the dream with family." Serena's chest tightened, but her hands were steady. She began typing. Funny how that dream was built on my stolen future. My parents lied about my grandfather's health to keep me away. They drained my $5 million trust and handed it to my brother. And now they're trying to give him Harris Hotels too. They thought I'd never find out. She hit post before she could hesitate. For a moment, silence. Then her notifications exploded. Likes, comments, shares. Friends, cousins, even investors of the hotel chain were flooding in with shocked messages. Is this true? What's happening with Harris Hotels? Her phone buzzed again. Ethan's name flashed on the screen. "Serena, what the hell is wrong with you?" he snapped, his voice low, like he was hiding from their parents. "Take that post down. You're making Mom and Dad look awful." Serena let the silence stretch, then said coldly, "Awful? They lied to me, Ethan. They stole what was mine, and you lived off it." He stammered, "It's complicated." "No," Serena cut in. "It's simple. You stole my future." Not long after, her mother's number appeared on the screen. Serena almost ignored it, but then she answered. "Serena," Elaine hissed, her voice icy. "Delete that post. You're humiliating us." Serena laughed bitterly. "Humiliating you? You faked Grandpa's injury, stole my trust fund, and tried to hand Ethan the business. You humiliated yourselves." Elaine's voice rose, sharp and brittle. "We did what was best for the family. Ethan was ready for that money, not you." Serena's chest burned. "Ready? He's failed at everything he touched. And you still gave him my future while I worked myself to the bone." Elaine's voice wavered. "Don't twist this, Serena. You've always been ungrateful." Serena closed her eyes, fighting the sting of tears. "Ungrateful? No, Mom. I've always been invisible, but not anymore." She ended the call without waiting for a reply. Harold placed a hand on her shoulder. "You did the right thing, sweetheart. Now the world knows the truth." Across the city, phones buzzed as news of Serena's post spread. Employees at Harris Hotels whispered. Investors panicked. For the first time, the Morgan family's pristine mask was cracking. By dawn, the fallout had spiraled. Reporters were calling, investors were demanding answers, and hotel staff were quietly sharing their own stories about unpaid wages and shady practices under Victor Morgan's leadership. Vanessa worked quickly, filing legal papers to freeze the transfer of Harris Hotels to Ethan. "The contract isn't finalized yet," she explained, tapping the desk with her pen. "If we prove fraud, we can stop this in its tracks." That night, Harold handed Serena one last piece of ammunition, a faded document from a locked drawer in his study. "This is the original contract I signed with your father," he said solemnly. "It gave him control of the hotels. But there's a clause." Serena scanned the text, her pulse racing. "If dishonesty or misconduct is proven, control can be revoked." She looked up, fire burning in her chest. "This is it. This is how we take everything back." Vanessa's lips curled into a fierce smile. "Then tomorrow we go straight to their office and end this." The next morning, Serena strode into Harris Hotel's downtown headquarters. Her grandfather's contract was clutched tightly under her arm, her heart hammering, but her steps firm. For years, she had been the overlooked daughter. Today, she was something else entirely. She pushed open the glass doors to her father's corner office. Victor and Elaine were inside, frantically feeding papers into a shredder. They froze when they saw her. Victor's face flushed crimson. "You don't belong here, Serena," he barked. But she held the contract high. "Actually, I do." His eyes narrowed, but a flicker of fear passed through them. She stepped closer. "This contract has a clause you didn't count on, Dad. If you're caught lying or stealing, you lose everything. She set the paper on his desk with deliberate calm. Elaine's face turned pale as she gripped the edge of the desk. "Serena, let's talk about this," she said, her voice trembling. Serena arched a brow. "Talk? Where was the talking when you gave Ethan my trust fund? When you planned to cut me out of the business entirely?" The office door banged open. Ethan stormed in, his face red with fury. "You're destroying everything, Serena. Why can't you just let it go?" Serena turned to him slowly. "Let it go? You lived off my money without blinking. You don't get to tell me to let go." Before Ethan could retort, the door swung open again. 2 federal agents entered, their badges flashing. Behind them came Vanessa and Harold, calm and unyielding. Victor's face drained of color. "What is this?" he demanded. One agent, a tall woman in a navy suit, spoke firmly. "Victor Morgan, Elaine Morgan, you are under investigation for financial fraud and illegal offshore transfers." Elaine gasped, clutching Victor's arm. "Do something," she hissed. But Victor was frozen, his eyes locked on the contract Serena had placed on the desk. Serena stepped forward, her voice sharp and unwavering. "You stole my trust fund. You tried to erase me, but you underestimated me." She laid down another folder, bank records, trust statements, proof of every dollar funneled to Ethan. The agents nodded, taking the files. "This will be entered as evidence," one said. Victor's face twisted with rage. "You think you've won, Serena?" he spat. She met his glare without flinching. "This isn't about winning. It's about taking back what was mine all along." Ethan's mouth opened, but no words came. For the first time, he looked like he understood. The game was over. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind, but they changed everything. Vanessa's legal team presented the evidence with precision. Every siphoned dollar, every hidden transfer, every lie was laid bare. The judge declared the attempted transfer of Harris Hotels fraudulent, null and void. In a ruling that stunned the city, Serena was awarded full ownership of the chain. Her parents faced prison time for fraud, their empire crumbling in their absence. Ethan, stripped of money and influence, sent Serena a weak text. "I'm sorry. Let's talk." She never replied. Some betrayals cut too deep. Though much of the trust fund was gone, Serena found strength in what she gained. The hotels, once tainted, became her chance to rebuild something honest. She reopened books, paid overdue wages, and created scholarships for employees' children. Slowly, trust returned. One evening, Serena stood with Harold on the rooftop of the flagship hotel, the Atlanta skyline glittering. He sipped his coffee, smiling softly. "I always knew you had it in you," he said. Serena tilted her head. "Had what?" Harold's eyes warmed. "The strength to turn their betrayal into your power." Serena laughed quietly, the weight of years lifting. She had been invisible once, but now she wasn't just surviving. She was thriving on her own terms. On a quiet Sunday evening, weeks after the verdict, Serena found herself standing in the grand lobby of the flagship Harris Hotel. The marble floors gleamed, not with the cold gloss of her father's reign, but with warmth restored by new leadership. Employees moved with ease, their smiles genuine now that back wages had been paid and voices were being heard. Serena walked slowly, taking it all in. She had once imagined herself as an outsider peering in at a life she was never meant to touch. Now, every chandelier, every polished railing, every check-in counter was hers, not as spoils of revenge, but as proof of survival. She stopped when she saw her reflection in the glass doors. For a moment, she didn't see the overlooked daughter anymore. She saw the woman who had fought back. Behind her, Harold approached with his cane, his steps steady despite the years. "You've built something good here already," he said warmly. Serena turned to him, her eyes misting. "I wanted to prove to them I was worthy, but I realize now I don't need their approval. I never did." Harold smiled, placing a hand on her shoulder. Exactly. You don't build a life by begging for a seat at someone else's table. You build your own table. Serena laughed softly, wiping at her eyes. In her pocket, her phone buzzed, a new message from Ethan, another half-hearted plea for forgiveness. She silenced it without a glance. Some doors, she knew, were meant to stay closed. She looked back at Harold, then around the lobby, filled with people whose futures were now tied to hers. "This isn't just mine," she said firmly. "It belongs to all of us." As she spoke, the weight of betrayal lifted fully. Serena had not just taken back what was hers. She had forged something greater, a legacy built not on favoritism or lies, but on truth, fairness, and resilience. Like and subscribe to my channel for more contents like this, and let us know where you are watching from under the comment section.